Okay, welcome to Live from the Archives. We're here at the amazing David Bieber Archives in Norwood, Massachusetts at the Norwood Space Center. Special thanks to Motherlode.tv, an amazing online curated archive and multimedia platform where you can find all sorts of new artists and music. And so I have a great panel here that we're going to get to in 1 second. But first, my name's Dave Wedge. I'm a author, and I was a journalist for many years at the Boston Herald, and I write for Vice, and I've written for several music publications over the years, and I've written a few books. And today I'm here to talk about David Bieber's incredible archives, and I'm super excited to have the one and only Cha-Chi Loprete from WBCN.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here with you and this esteemed panel.
Thank you.
Yes.
And WZLX as well, and grew up listening to you. Thank you for all those great shows that you did over the years.
Thank you very much. So, I started at WBCN, and there's a man on this panel who hired me back in 1982. It was November 22nd, 1982. I still have the memo. I'm sure he has it too.
Right. It's probably buried in here somewhere. Right?
And he welcomed me as his assistant.
So, David, you hired Cha-Chi.
I hired him, and
so you're responsible.
Oh, absolutely. I have unleashed him on the world.
Why did you hire him?
Because he just seemed to have the drive, the determination, the qualities that were so vital for the fast-paced world of BCN at the time.
Yeah.
And he never let me down. And it was just, when seriously,
what year was this?
This was 82.
82. And I worked for free for a year.
So that's why he hired you.
But it was, he had a day job at Polaroid.
Yes.
And he had a great career going, but he had such affection for BCN that he was willing to give it away, prove it that he had all the tenacity and the talent to really walk into the job.
And to this day, he's my best friend. He's a mentor, and I love the guy. My wife Stephanie, who I met at WBCN, we both love this man.
That's great. That's great.
This guy collects everything, but he remembers everything too.
Right.
That's great.
And I always have that joke. There's a fine line between hoarding and collecting, and David found that line.
I'm the hoarder.
Well, they have those shows now, Hoarded. We're going to have to call that
a whole
show
different
Hoarders.
thing.
Like, this is a whole other level right here.
But Cha-Chi is a supreme collector as well. He is just far more focused and specific than I am, and he has wonderful, wonderful Beatles items. He has met 3 of the 4 Beatles personally, interviewed them. The only one that he didn't meet was John.
Wow.
And I'm sure he would have, but was connected with Ringo.
Yeah.
The joke with Ringo and Cha-Chi is that, Cha-Chi, you've got a funnier name than I do.
And he always remembers me because of my name.
There can't be too many people around that have interviewed 3 out of the 4 Beatles.
Yeah, a lot of people use the word blessed a lot, but I am truly blessed. I only interviewed George once, but that was great. But I've interviewed and been with Paul many times, had dinner with him, with a group of people. But I've kind of built this friendship with Ringo, and he knows me when he sees me, and I know his people around him, and he's coming back to town soon, and I'll be there with him. He's a great guy.
The All-Star Band?
Yeah.
And you do, we'll get Lesley, we'll bring you in, won't you say hello to everyone, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about your background. You had a BCN history as well, but first you were 94.5 WCOZ.
I actually was very blessed to be a part of the BCN family for many, many years from the beginning, because my dear boyfriend at the time was one of the early hires, Sam Copper. And so I was always involved in the activities and have been ever since. So that's always been great. But the wonderful thing I think about BCN is that what a lot of people don't know is the history of what AOR was at the time. The father of AOR radio was that guy Tom Donahue.
Right.
And it just came from across the country, and BCN picked up the format and ran with it. So in 68, when Joe Rogers spun that tune, I Feel Free,
Cream,
for the first time, it was really the only other station in the country that was doing that format. Now, when I came to COZ in 1975, because Sam had encouraged me so much to get into the business, And when I got on air, it was a thrill to be part of a new startup, and you ended up working for us for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were a startup that we wanted to go head to head with BCN, and we did very well. We had some very good rating periods, and it was a fun time, and I think that it enhanced the city, and it brought, the culture had already evolved by that time, by 75, by the time I got to COZ. But it brought a new awareness, I think, and we selected our music just a little differently, and we had a little different attitude. BCN is the bastion, we all know that, but I was proud to be a part of what I did at COZ, damn proud.
Yeah, no, and I was telling you before we started here, I grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I was a child of the 80s, and I grew up kind of listening to both, and
Yeah.
I would go back and forth between the two, whichever one was playing the song that I liked better, but I loved WCOZ, and
One of the
it
things
was very
I'd like
sad
to-
when the format changed.
True. One of the things I would like to say too is that while COZ and BCN did focus hugely on local talent, I made it a franchise at COZ, and I love doing that. So I had my Boston Beat program. I released 2 albums. We did club nights. We did simulcasts. And we really helped, and I was just so happy to be a part of really elevating the guys and gals who really worked hard and worked their asses off in the clubs every night and largely went unnoticed and undiscovered. Some of them did. The Cars.
Yeah. Well, and you also,
I have their
it
gold
should be
album.
mentioned that COZ was the place where Ken Shelton and you and Mark Parento all worked and ultimately became part of BCN as well in the next iteration of what BCN was. So.
Do you know that a lot of people think that? I never worked at BCN.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
Because I've been hanging around so long, they all think I did.
Okay.
So, Lesley, when you walked into is this your first time here? At
No,
the
no,
Archives?
no. I've been here a few times. I
You've
think.
seen the
Yeah.
evolution. You've
Yes.
seen it when it was in its most raw state,
Yeah.
nothing but cardboard boxes.
David is a national treasure.
Oh, thank you.
To help with Boston.
What do you think of this place?
I think it's fabulous. We've talked a little bit about memories, but I think that memories, without the tangible items, as you said earlier, are sometimes just so they're fleeting. And while I have great memories, I'm never really sorry about, the days gone by. I have wonderful, sweet, wistful memories of all that craziness and all those great times. But to see it all in this one space is truly, it's not only remarkable, it's earth-shattering. I mean,
It's earth-tilting.
Yeah.
Yeah. David, a little bit the numbers. How many items are in here?
I did a kind of calibration several years ago and estimated at that time that there were about 650,000 items, but I think that's lowballing.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the more I see it, the more I start opening it. We're heading towards 1 million. I think.
And you're literally going through box after box after box, and some of these boxes haven't been opened in 25, 30, 40 years.
Right, exactly right. The mission and the intent was to get the things while they're right in front of me and worry about organizing them later or where they were going to be used or applied. But the important thing was, and Cha-Chi really contributed so mightily, working with him as I did at BCN, that he was so faithful in putting things aside and appreciating the sensibility of collecting and of preserving.
Well, and the other thing is, everything in this room pretty much traveled through his office at one point or another.
Right.
And would you say half or more of the boxes are addressed to me here? I see my name on lots of boxes, and I'm saying, Steph, we should have brought the van, because I think this might be mine.
You always leave with more than you came with, right?
Cha-Chi, what are your thoughts on this project?
I think it's a pretty amazing thing what he's achieved. And I was telling Lesley before we went on, the only downside is David can't live forever to maintain the collection. Because I just brought Stephanie, my wife, for the first time, and she's blown away. So you look at it and you go, wow, that's all you can do. And
Yeah.
the things you see are just so off the wall.
Yeah.
And then you see some great albums. I think I saw a Beatles Butcher cover over there.
Could be.
Oh, the famous Yesterday and Today cover.
And I will tell you,
Can you tell us about that cover?
well, yeah, it was called Yesterday and Today, and they put it out with this. Robert Freeman took the picture, and they had the Beatles in doctor's smocks, and they were cut up dolls and red meat all over.
Very, very provocative
Yes.
for that time. 1968?
No, 65.
65?
And
Okay.
everybody thought it was the Beatles making a statement that Capitol cuts up their albums to make more albums and make more money, but that really wasn't the case. It was the photographer just trying to be a little avant-garde and
Yeah.
take the Beatles in a different direction. Well, everything hit the fan when that record came out. The press, the Beatles have made a mistake for the first time, and Capitol destroyed a bunch of them. And I have documents, I don't know if you have them too, David, that 50,000 copies were buried in the Needham dump.
Really?
Others were covered over with a new picture. So the Butcher cover is the
Very
Holy
rare.
Grail.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky, and I'll use the word blessed again, because now I have 3, but my very first one was given to me by David
Wow.
in a frame, and I'm like, wow.
Well, before you leave today, you got to
Sure.
show me where that is in this building.
Okay,
'cause I got
I'll
to see
show
that
you.
thing.
I'll show
I've
you.
heard about it.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yes.
unicorn, but
It is amazing.
yeah, that is incredible. David, for people that aren't going to be able to come in here right away, there are going to be opportunities for people to see some of the things, and they actually can right now at the Verb Hotel over by Fenway Park.
Exactly.
So what goes on over there?
Well, it's really meant to be a celebration of music and media and pop culture that came out of the Fenway and the greater Boston area. And
You worked at the Phoenix.
I worked at the
for many
Phoenix.
years.
The
Yep.
Phoenix was right around the corner on Brookline Avenue, right next door
Yep.
to the Verb Hotel on Boylston Street was the WBCN offices and studio. David Minahan had his Woolly Mammoth studio right across the street. Around the corner on Lansdowne Street were all the clubs, the Spit and Avalon and
The Rat.
Venus and down
Axis.
Kenmore Square.
Yeah.
And
Which was the Tea Party at one point?
the Tea Party
Yeah.
was at 15 Lansdowne Street, where House of Blues is located right
There
now.
was also Aerosmith's club for a
Yeah,
while,
Mama
right?
Kin.
Mama Kin.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And down, as Lesley says, Kenmore Square had the Rat, and it was just a very fertile ground for all kinds of creative activity. And the Verb is really a kind of gallery and a celebration of all the great things that emerged out of that area. All generations, some things that go back to the 1960s, other things that are as recent as this year.
And a lot of all the stuff in there, all the decors from your collection.
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, that has a motif and a theme, but it's very flexible in the sense that, if it has local color, it could be an international band. So, in the sense that, it could be a Clash poster, but they played at the Cape Cod Coliseum,
Yep.
with a pair of tickets attached.
Yeah.
So but I've got a
you
few
have some
things
stuff,
here,
right? Yeah.
that is kind of a surprise for Cha-Chi in particular, because maybe 20 years ago, Cha-Chi, who grew up in Cambridge, got a call from his mother, who we love, and she is still with us, and keeping Cha-Chi on the straight and narrow. And
That's a tough job.
Making the pasta.
And as a matter of fact, Peter Wolf, when he would come into ZLX to do the anniversary show, the Friday Night Fish Fry, Cha-Chi's mother would be there, and Wolf would see her, and he'd be so excited. Oh, Mrs. Cha-Chi, Mrs. Cha-" without realizing that Stephanie is really Mrs. Cha-Chi.
Yes, and she'd be carrying a plate of pasta and
Right,
sauce.
right.
So she always brought food for Pete.
But anyhow, so back in the BCN days, we were working together, and Cha-Chi got a phone call from his mother saying that the woman living next door, her family was moving her into assisted living, and the family was they had a dumpster out of the second story window, and they were just pitching things that weren't going to make the cut. And so Cha-Chi told me about it, and I went to the family, and I said, I'll give you $500 to just let me take all the debris. And
I cannot remember any of this.
oh, okay. Well, this woman was I don't know if there's anything in here related to that, but she was a lifelong Republican who did a lot of her, free time for the party locally. And I came away things that I have at home, Richard Nixon and Dwight Eisenhower posters and all kinds of, wonderful political buttons and badges and all that. But these are a few things
I think
that...
there's some right here. Look at
Holy cow.
this is the beauty of this place. You can just turn
Within
around
arm's
and
reach.
Oh, okay. Well, this
And
is
we
not
have this-
this is not staged, but
all these amazing political buttons. If you listen,
but
This is
the
amazing.
marking
Look at that.
Nixon
I
Lodge,
like
I
Ike.
like Ike,
Holy
Reagan
cow.
Bush.
Wow.
Amazing. So what do you got for
well,
us?
the marking on this box is Cambridge House via Cha-Chi, great unsorted.
Wow.
So you
I
haven't opened this yet?
I consider the stuff terrific items, and I didn't sort them at the time, so I have no idea.
And with everything in this room, he found that one box for me.
Like, here is just an old newspaper, Shirley Temple.
So this is an old Boston Sunday Globe
Halloween masks.
Oh, this is the Halloween mask box.
He was-
It's an old Boston Globe. Let's see if there's a date on it.
Holy cow. Look at that.
1930. Hey guys, this is 1936. This
Right.
paper.
This
Wow.
is Christmas ornamentation. Probably looks the style and design looks like it's from the 1950s.
Show some of these.
Look, it looks like
Oh
I'm in
my
the
God.
Bentman.
Old
Doesn't it?
old
Radio.
a remarkable likeness.
Oh, look at that.
That's like a real treasure.
This is like the stuff of nightmares right here.
Yeah. Early version of Beats.
Holy cow.
Dr. Dre got nothing on this.
Gee, how much do those weigh? Wow.
Oh my God.
They use those now for the air traffic controllers, so they.
Oh, I thought it looked like
Can't hear
exercise
anything.
torture.
This is her stamp collection.
Oh, see, David and I love stamps. David and I collected stamps as a child, and we always joke about
He's
H.E.
crazy.
Harris in New
Yeah,
Hampshire.
right.
These
And I
things.
gave him an H.E. Harris stamp last night at another event. Look at these stamps.
Realistic. Ian, I think you guys could use these.
Yeah, right.
Look
Plug
at
them in,
this.
see if they work.
1930s Christmas Club card.
Right.
Look at that, huh? That is amazing.
Even down
Exchange
to
Trust Company, Boston.
everything from Santa Claus to Popeye.
Wow.
So, but these are the
You
kinds
would
of things
company.
that you can just randomly find, and I'll be organizing this stuff. But I probably that day I worked well into the night, because it was basically one day left before everything, the woman was checking out. And these are the kinds of unexpected discoveries that come along the way.
Look at that, 39 cents. Now, see, David and I have a couple of friends that, they pass away and their family has no clue. We have another friend who passed away, and they just all threw all the stuff in the dumpster. It's just amazing,
So
They don't
this
have time.
this is where ultimately they wind up. I could show Cha-Chi, maybe he hasn't even seen this poster. It's a poster
Oh.
of John Lennon.
How I Won the War.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Ramparts.
Ramparts
I used to
magazine,
read that magazine.
yeah.
Lord.
October 1967.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
You might want to frame that, dude.
Or just roll it up and put it in a corner.
yeah, right. Put it in a corner.
That's beautiful. I've never seen that
it.
before.
See?
That's
And
great.
for him to say he's never seen it before is very significant because he has seen and done so many things above and beyond just Beatles. I mean, he has had one of the most illustrious, colorful radio careers, not to diminish yours by any means, but you turned right at real estate and he kept going in radio. So he's still got
Yeah.
the morning Beatles show, Breakfast with the Beatles on WUMB every Saturday, right?
Every Saturday morning. It's been doing a Beatles show in Boston for just about 20 years.
And you can stream that online now, too,
Over
right?
20 years. Yes, WUMB.org every Saturday morning.
And then,
yes.
and you have a website for the show?
I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Breakfast with the Beatles Cha-Chi.
Okay.
And I'm on Twitter @Cha-Chi Beatles.
Great.
and I post a lot of the stuff I play, and there's a lot of interaction with the audience, and I owe a lot to David Bieber, and he's just a dear, dear friend. And I left a very high-paying job at Polaroid and took a very low-paying job in radio.
I had nothing to do with
Well,
the decision.
unfortunately, both mediums are pretty much extinct now.
There you go, right?
Polaroid is probably coming back more than
They're
radio.
trying that. My daughter. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and her and her friends have the Polaroids now. That's like a thing, I guess.
Yeah,
for the
yeah, it
kids,
is.
But I don't think Polaroid is the one making them.
No,
We were at a-
somebody bought
Yeah,
the
I
name.
think someone.
But we were at a BCN dinner last week, and who was walking around with a Polaroid
Yeah,
camera?
Jay,
Oh, yeah.
Jay
Jay
Rooney.
Rooney.
Maybe you
taking
can get your
pictures.
job back.
And I used to put the red buttons on the Polaroid cameras. On the,
So
on the
actual
line.
LPs, actual books, written books, as opposed to the digitals, they're all coming back.
Yeah.
Well, that we were talking earlier, David. That's what this place is really all about. It's that so much. The generation's definitely behind my generation. It's all digital, and it's almost like if they can't find it on Google, it never existed.
Yeah.
But this place is proof of the opposite. That a lot of this stuff that's here isn't on Google. You can't find
Yeah,
it.
right,
It only
right.
exists here.
Right. And I think people get stimulated when they see the real hard copy, the real version of an item, that it stimulates a curiosity, and people want to know the backstory. And then you can just understand how a phone evolved if you look at a phone from the 1930s and you look at a phone from the 1950s. The same way with a radio. I probably have about 100 or so radios through the years. You can see the different designs. You can look. Some are made of wood, some are made of plastic, some are made of metal. But the ultimate goal was to hear great content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing about David, for years, he was always percolating under the surface, but now he's getting the acclaim that he deserves because people are seeing, wow, this is pretty amazing. So David Bieber Archives are getting more famous than, as John would say, Jesus.
Oh, well, it is great to have someone like you that took this responsibility on, because it is a huge responsibility, and a lot of this stuff would be lost by now if not for someone like you to.
Well,
to
it
take
was
care
right
of.
there in my midst, and I sometimes tell people that, the places where I worked, WBCN, the Phoenix, FNX, that all these things were kind of up for grabs. In other words, when an old issue of Billboard magazine was replaced by the next week's issue of Billboard, nobody wanted the previous week's issue. But, through the accumulation, I started out in college as a Billboard campus rep. And to me, that was such a thrill to get a byline in a national magazine as a freshman journalist. But now, with the passage of time, I've got 50 years of Billboard magazine.
Yeah.
And you do the math, it's like 2,500 issues. Every one of those issues is like a time capsule.
Yeah.
You take an issue from 1978, and page 32, there's a Ramones ad on that page.
Yeah.
I don't arbitrarily. I don't. Really
Each
know
one
that.
of them is a little time capsule.
Yeah.
But I know.
Back then, you'd have to wait for them to come out. I just would thirst for every issue of Rolling Stone to come out.
Yeah.
And there's something out of character that I know about David, and maybe I have the story wrong, but I know as a child, he used to throw 45s out of a window. Did you know the man who coined the term rock and roll? Is that?
Leo Mintz was had a.
Did you ever know that,
I did
David?
not
This
know
guy.
I thought it was wasn't it a DJ?
Well, he was the backer, the financial backer of Alan Freed.
Alan Freed.
And Leo Mintz had a record store in downtown Cleveland in an appropriately named Terminal Tower, because Cleveland was a pretty terminal city at the time. But he had a store, Record Rendezvous, and he advertised on Alan Freed's radio show, and also the first Moondog Coronation Ball, which was the first rock and roll concert, and was a riot and closed down. There were a lot of bogus counterfeit tickets, too many people trying to crash the gates, and it was like the later Green Day show at the in Boston in 1994. But Leo Mintz underwrote Alan Freed's ventures, and if you believe the tale, the term rock and roll had been used in blues and R&B lyrics and going back to the 30s. But Mintz said to Freed, You got to come down to the store. You won't believe how these kids are rocking and rolling all over the place. They had listening booths in the record store that you could take a record and close the door and play the record before you bought it. And that was what Mintz was telling him. Cool. The kids are rocking and rolling all over the place.
You know. And one other thing, I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but he had a girlfriend who went on What's My Line as a female drummer back in the day. She was, so there's little interesting stories. There's so many stories about this.
She went on after the mystery guest. The mystery guest was Jane Mansfield.
Oh, wow.
Tough act to follow, but she did it. Yeah.
Wow. Cha-Chi, there's been one of your colleagues, Carter Allen, wrote a book about the BCN story. Did you read the book?
I did.
Yeah. What are your thoughts now that you had a little time away from BCN and all that, about the impact that it had, kind of not only in Boston but nationally?
Well, I look back with such affection because my life changed when I started listening to Charles. And I look back and I try to remember those days. I don't remember everything, but BCN was a trailblazing station. They were groundbreaking. The country followed what we did, and to be in the same room with people like David and all these other people that were caught around, Charles, Ken Shelton, Mark Frenno, it was a gift. And I look back, I wish it would continue on, but I look back and I consider myself very, very lucky.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all the work you've done. And Lesley, before we start to wrap up, you've written a book, and it sounds a little creepy.
It's very creepy, I'm happy to say.
Is it as creepy as this?
Next Halloween. Carter
I'm sorry. This is the creepy one.
Carter's an old friend, so he was of great encouragement.
Archie's creepy
so what it's about a murder.
It's actually a murder that took place in a cabin that I rented back when I was first getting into broadcasting in New Haven. And I was working at WPLR, living in an isolated cabin in the woods in Cheshire. And I came back after having done the overnight show one morning around 9, and there was blood all over my cabin, but no body. And I was always so damn tired at the time. All I wanted was to sleep. So I just ignored it and cleaned it up. I didn't ignore it exactly. I did call the cops, but they refused to come out. And at the time they gave me a really bogus story, such as, it was a guy who had had an accident at the foot of your driveway and he was looking for help and he saw your light. Well, my cabin was not visible from the road. So I knew at the time something was crazy, and then all of those years later, this happened in 1975, through the years I've been trying to piece things together, and it's only been 2 years ago that I started writing what I thought was going to be a memoir. And I realized I was going down rabbit holes trying to solve the mystery, and it involves Patty Hearst and the FBI on the hunt for her, and they're taking me for her and bothering me. And it was a crazy time, but so once I ran into this, I know it's a crazy story, but once I ran into the woman who is the historical director of the town of Cheshire, and I told her the story, she said, "You've got to come down here because I got some things that's going to light your hair on fire." So when I met with her, it involves the mob, extortion payments from the farmers in that town, money in trunks of cars, and a lot of police corruption and the FBI on the hunt for Patty Hearst. So it turned into.
My God!
No wonder they didn't care about a little blood.
So you've kind of fictionalized the whole thing. And what's the name of the book?
It's called Play Murder for Me.
Play Murder for Me.
And I'm just now speaking to an agent, so I'm really excited about it.
That's great. That's great. Well, you guys are all amazing. Cha-Chi, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Lesley, thank you. David, thank you. That's
man.
unfortunately all the time that we have. And thanks for joining us here live from the archives. We're at the David Bieber Archives. If you want to learn more about it, it's at davidbieberarchives.com. Thanks to the Norwood Space Center and Music Drives Us, which is a huge supporter of the efforts going on here, motherload.tv, and also MediaBoss. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.